The part where I invite our special guest, our chief guest, Ms. Linda Fabiani, who is the former presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament and former co-convener of the cross-party group for Tibet in the Scottish Parliament. She's a great friend, and her legacy of support for Tibet in the Scottish Parliament continues, and we have our friends here from Scotland who have come all the way from there to be part of this celebration. So I invite Linda to please come up and say a few words, please. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much. Hello, friends. I find my glasses deep here. Absolute pleasure to be here. Now, why are we here? It's quite obvious we're here to celebrate the 90th birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. 90 years in this incarnation. But I've been asking myself, why am I here? Why was I invited here? Why is it that for my parliamentary career, being in the cross-party group to try and support Tibet in any way that I could was so important for me? I could say the same for my colleague Chris Law from Westminster, standing at the back there, who chairs the cross-party group in Westminster, all-party parliamentary group, I think they call them there. And apologies from Ross Greer, who since I retired has chaired the group in the Scottish Parliament. So why did I do that? Was it about the invasion and annexation, which is unjust, what happened to Tibet? Is it about the threat to the planet of the degradation of the Tibetan plateau? Is it because I care very, very deeply about the loss of language, culture and fellowship in Tibet? It's all of these things. I care very deeply about my own nation, that is Scotland, and I'll always advocate its people's right to decide its future. As a civic nationalist, I feel the same for any peoples in the world, and I certainly feel that very strongly for Tibet. And as a former politician, or former professional politician, I'm probably still quite political, I have the utmost respect for the government in exile and for all the Tibetans all over the world who aspire to freedom and democracy. So yes, I'm here for all of those reasons, but actually, if I'm being very honest about it, it's mostly because I absolutely adore His Highness the Dalai Lama. From the very first time that Victor here asked me to come along and meet him when he visited Scotland, and the other twice I've had the honour of meeting him, I just love the man. And I want to be here to celebrate his 90th birthday because tonight is about him. That wonderful man there in that fantastic portrait by Koo. Why is that? I've asked myself that often because I'm not a religious person. I don't actually have a faith. I don't particularly consider myself to be spiritual. And I was very unprepared for the spirituality that I felt when I first met His Holiness. On reading his writings and listening to his advocacy for his people, this has just increased over the years. I've learned a lot from him. I've learned about compassion, about love for and faith in humanity, although at times it's hard to keep that faith. And I've also learned a lot about politics. Yes, even though His Holiness has eschewed political leadership as such, his guidance to his people and his commitment to the future has been absolutely unstinting. Koo talked about the sense of humour that His Holiness has. I very much felt that. I can just tell you a couple of anecdotes. I was very, very honoured on one of his visits when he, or not he, his representative, but I guess it came from him, asked me to sit beside him and introduce him at a meeting in Edinburgh City Council. And I introduced him, and then I sat beside him, and we listened to lots of speeches, some of which were in Tibetan. Of course, I had no idea what people were saying. And His Holiness sat beside me, and I'll change hands here, because I was on his right, and every so often he would poke me in the ribs, and he would say, "Funny bit." Smile. And a little while later he would poke me in the ribs again and say, "Very sad." And I would accordingly look very sad. And then that was the same visit where again I'm referencing Koo here, because she said he told her she was cheeky, or something sort of naughty. He told me the same thing. He told me I was cheeky, but he punched me. Just like that. He said, "You're a cheeky girl." And I thought, I'm a politician. I could get the front of all the newspapers if I said, "The Dalai Lama punched me." But I didn't, because it was fun. And again, that sense of humour is something that I just found wonderful about him. I find the man to be an absolute beacon of light to Tibet and to the rest of the world. He talks of the struggle as a journey. He talks about it again that way in his latest book, and says that all steps contribute along the way. That man has made strides and has forged the path for others to follow by his actions and by his more recent pronouncements that we heard read out today. That's the path to follow. Our world isn't in a good place right now. Strife and conflict seem to increase daily. I was speaking to a friend recently about it who was actually quite depressed about the way things were going. And she said that one of the issues in the world, that there was a lack of prominent good people who were getting coverage in the mainstream press and across the world. We tried very hard to think of some. We came up with a couple, but the one we absolutely agreed on without question was His Holiness 14th Dalai Lama. For 90 years he has been a good person. And his fundamental legacy must continue. He has always said it's the protection of Tibetans as a people with a unique culture and language and religion. It's a very hard path. But he continues to take these steps. He's moving us along it. For Tibet, and in my view, for the rest of the world, goodness must come out on top. So, we're here for his 90th birthday, and this is a man who deserves to be celebrated. So, happy birthday, sir. And here's to many, many more. Thank you very much.